Hey, this is Will. In this section, we're going to be talking about provisioning a certificate authority and generating TLS certificates. But before we jump into that, I wanted to just pause for a moment and talk about why we need the certificate authority and TLS certificates. If you already have an understanding of why we need those, feel free to skip this video. But if not, we're going to talk a little bit about the why and what the purpose of these certificates actually is. So let's talk about the relationship between the certificate authority, or CA, and the TLS certificates themselves. We're going to be provisioning a certificate authority in some of the following lessons, and then we will be using that CA, or certificate authority, to generate several TLS certificates. Certificates are used to confirm or authenticate identity. They are used to prove that you are who you say you are. You can sort of think of a certificate as a slightly more complex but also more secure version of a password. A certificate authority provides the ability to confirm that a certificate is valid. A certificate authority can be used to validate any certificate that was issued using the certificate authority. So if I'm a user or a program, some kind of service, and I have a particular certificate authority that I trust, I can use that certificate authority to validate any other certificate that was generated from that authority. So that's how we're going to do some of the security features within our Kubernetes cluster, is using a certificate authority and a series of certificates. Kubernetes uses these certificates for a variety of functions, and different parts of our cluster are going to validate certificates using the certificate authority. In this section, we will generate all of the certificates that we're going to need later on for our Kubernetes cluster, and we will copy the certificate files to the particular cloud servers that need them. So what certificates do we need? Well, we're going to be generating multiple certificates for different purposes. And after we provision the certificate authority, we're going to use it to generate the following. First, there's a series of client certificates. These client certificates provide authentication for various users, including admin, kube controller manager, kube proxy, kube scheduler, and the kubelet client on each worker node. And you can sort of think of those client certificates as a type of password. All these different components on multiple servers need to authenticate securely with the Kubernetes API, and they're going to use the client certificates in order to do that. We also need a Kubernetes API server certificate. This is the TLS certificate for the Kubernetes API. So when these clients are talking to the Kubernetes API, they're using the client certificate to confirm their identity, but the Kubernetes API server certificate is going to confirm the identity of the Kubernetes API server. So we have secure communication going both ways, and both the client and the server are able to verify that the other is who they say they are. Finally, we're going to need a service account key pair. Kubernetes uses certificates to sign service account tokens. So when you create a service account in Kubernetes, you have the ability to create tokens to allow users to authenticate using that service account. And Kubernetes uses a certificate in order to generate and sign those tokens. So we need to create that certificate as well, so that we will have it when we need it in order to set up our Kubernetes cluster. So now I hope you have a little bit of background and context on what we're going to be doing as we go forward. I'll explain a little more in depth in the following videos as we actually get into the process of creating and generating our certificate authority and all of these TLS certificates that we need for the Kubernetes cluster.